So life begins at the end of your comfort zone. We talked about this before in previous weeks. But on to this week. One of the things we're going to talk about is, are you busy or too busy? Not enough time to do your job. MBA program is a job, and that's unlike undergrad, where it's considered part-time or depending on your situation. But one of my observations as a teacher with multiple students is the most common problem is time and what I call self-management. Uh, you know, Whether you realize it or not, everyone is a leader of themselves. You manage your day-to-day activities. This is also a good time to talk about self-evaluation, evaluating how you're going about things and doing things. Are you having problems keeping up or balancing, multiple things? We have habits, be it, I've mentioned sometimes about, the coffee drinkers, you don't go without your coffee. You make sure you do take care of the kids every day. You got routines. You don't just put something off until Sunday night or something like that. So, and again, with the MBA program, it should be a daily thing you're doing. School should be something you do every day. It's a habit, a routine, and then of course you have to manage it. Uh, One point is, do you put 100% in on everything you do, or is it like, oh, you 100% of the kids, or maybe 50%, depending on your situation, but then you only do 10% on school. How do you plan and balance your week out? And, that's an issue I see with students sometimes. So that's why I'm covering this. It may not apply to you, but maybe it does, or you can share this with, people you're mentoring. What do you do in one part of your day is a reflection of what you do in other parts of your life. So I use school as an example. If you're late doing assignments, you don't do the full assignment, or you just do bare minimum, that in reality is a reflection of how you do the rest of your life, your other things in your life, your job, your career. There's different things. Um, I'm sure all of you've seen the same thing I see at different places of business. When you go into places or you interact with people from different types of businesses, you'll see those people who it's just a job to them versus people who are, passionate about their job. So, there's different factors there. Um, and it all comes down to the self-management and time management thing. You have to have realistic and achievable goals when you talk about time management in your life. When I had to do an MBA and then when I did my doctorates, there's things I had to give up. TV was one of them, but there's things you have to balance out. You only have so many hours in the day, and you have to have achievable goals. I use the example of a runner. Somebody doesn't just show up at a marathon on a Saturday and run a marathon. That's not achievable. It's not realistic. You have to practice. So the marathoners, that's what they do. They train to get to that realistic and achievable goal. Again, we're talking about time, of course, managing your time. College is a job. Are you putting in 10, 20 hours a week? That's something I've harped on over the years with students is, it's not something you do for 2 hours on an evening, and especially on MBA, because you're expected to know the material of an MBA. When you go and get a job and you say, hey, I have an MBA, the employer expects that you have it, that you have the knowledge. And when they assign you projects and things like that, that you know how to do this stuff. So that's why it's important that you're putting in the time. And that's why we call it a full-time job. Um, you know, so the other question I'll put to you is, knowing what you know about yourself, would you hire yourself? And now what I'm talking about here is, if you happen to be in a situation with like school here, an MBA program, where you're submitting late assignments, you're not getting things done on time, you fall behind, or whatever the case is, that is a reflection of, of how you approach things. So would you hire somebody that has that same work ethic? Would you hire somebody that you know is not going to put that 10 hours a week in, that you know is not going to get things done on time? And so this is something you should reflect on yourself. You don't have to answer this question. I'm just saying this is a good self-test. You should do. Uh, what did you do with the time you had? I use a pizza store example. In a typical pizza store, a manager will come in at 10 o'clock, and there's usually only one person working inside the store. Maybe there's a delivery driver, but in a pizza store, you got one person. They come in at 10, and part of the job is to take orders during the day, but it's also to prepare everything for the evening. So by 4 o'clock, everything is done, all what they call the prep, and there's a lot that goes into it. So what happens when maybe a supervisor goes in and at 4 o'clock and you find nothing is ready, or only half of the things are ready for the evening, and you ask the question, and the answer is, I did not have enough time. And so I'm basing this on true experiences. So you go back, you look, and you say, okay, you've had 5 orders today, or you had 10 orders. Let's say you had 10 orders today. Okay, so you had to make 10 pizzas. And making a pizza literally only takes a minute. That's a little secret a lot of people may not know. Pizza places, it takes them 1 minute to make a pizza, and they throw it in the oven. A minute to take a phone order, put it in a box, and so let's say you got 10 pizzas, 10 orders, and it took 20 minutes. Even if it took 30 minutes total time, what did you do the other 5.5 hours? And so this was a common line I would get. And what people did was other things. They got distracted. They got busy on something else, or whatever the case is. It might have been just been on the phone. But anyway, so that's my point there is, how do you manage your time? What are you really doing? You've probably seen the video before. I'm going to put the link in again on this week's announcement. The Arnold, it's like a 1-minute video talking about how he manages his time. So that's a good video. Final point is you must self-manage and manage your own time. You have to do that. You may have to give up things. You have to rearrange things, whatever the point is. And again, life begins at the end of your comfort zone. So you may not be comfortable changing, but you have to. And so that's my point for this week. We'll move on to the next part here. Welcome to Corporate Finance, MBA510. So let's get right in here real quick. I'm sorry this is going to take a little longer because this is one of the, not to scare you, but this is one of the more difficult courses in here. So you got, got your book and our to-do list, chapters 1 through 4. So this first week of chapters here, you got, overview of, managerial finance, analysis of financial statements. How do you, analyze them? Then you got financial markets and value money. Chapter 2 is probably going to be your primary focus this week because of the homework assignments. So let's get in here. You still got we still got the discussions. So you have to kind of read the scenario there and do that. And then we have a final project. So what part of the project is, you're going to let me know what 2 companies you're picking. But the final project is you're going to pick 2 companies, and then you're basically going to do an analysis or compare and contrast the companies. So right here, so what you do on your you create an Excel sheet, you put these in there, and then you'd have two more columns over here where you have the data on each company. It could be like Ford, GM, or Walmart, Target, 2 similar industries, and you do a comparison on them. All right. That's that. Then you got the weekly quiz. Okay, so the homework. Now this is where we're getting into spreadsheets, and so here you got part of the assignment. It's 2 parts. So you got the spreadsheet part, which has your data. All right, so you got some instructions here. Down at the bottom, you have more instructions there. So like the blue areas are the areas that you are able to change. So the other part of the homework here is the written portion. All right, so you're going to have make sure both Excel and Word, you always enable editing first. So my suggestion here is you save this file as your homework, you read through, and then when you get to the parts where there's being questions asked, as you go scroll down here, be down a few pages, then in here what you can do is just uh, hit return, then back out so the numbers don't change, and then use a different color or font or something and answer the questions. That's probably the easiest way to do it. So, so it's a two-part, this information here you're going to use to also do the Excel sheet. So we need the same thing, make sure you enable your editing so you can make the changes. So you got more detailed over here on the instructions tab. So just make sure you read that over. And again, this particular course you're going to have to put a little more time in. Read that chapter, the PowerPoints. Make sure you're getting in there and reading that and figuring out all the different factors in there, because there's a lot of information. I mean, it's all in here on how to do this. If you're not a finance, accounting, math wizard, it might take you a little more time to figure it out. There's an assumption you've had finance courses before in your undergrad, and so therefore that's one of the assumptions there, that you have some understanding of this because you've done it before. All right. But with that, I'll quit there for now. Let me get out of there. And so again, all right, that should do it. So if you have problems, this is not the course where you can wait till Sunday or 2 and 3. You're going to have to keep up on this, or you're going to be lost. So just if you do have problems, let me know. Don't procrastinate. And with that, I will let you go. We'll give you there's my test question. What's the tease? He'll be 3 in December, so what's going on here? So with that, I'll let you all go. Have a great week, and you just get in touch if you need anything. All right?